For decades, the Bee Gees appeared to be the ultimate success story. Three brothers blessed with extraordinary talent, countless hit records, and a musical chemistry that seemed impossible to break. To the world, Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb looked inseparable. But behind the sold-out concerts, platinum albums, and global fame, a very different story was unfolding. As the Bee Gees climbed higher, tensions between Barry and Robin began to grow. What started as sibling rivalry slowly evolved into something far more destructive. Jealousy, wounded pride, and constant battles over control pushed the brothers further apart with each passing year. The conflict became so intense that Robin eventually walked away from the group, convinced he would never return. Fans saw the smiles on stage, but they never witnessed the bitterness behind closed doors. Public success masked private resentment, and every achievement seemed to deepen the divide. Over time, old wounds turned into lasting scars that neither brother could fully escape. By the time Robin's health began to fail, years of conflict and unresolved pain still hung heavily between them. After Robin's death, Barry finally revealed how troubled their relationship had truly become, exposing a heartbreaking family feud hidden beneath one of music's greatest success stories. In 1958, the Gibb family made a life-changing decision. Leaving England behind, they sailed to Australia with little more than hope and a dream that their children might find opportunities unavailable at home. What awaited them was far from easy. Settling in Brisbane, the three brothers performed anywhere they could, often singing at local racetracks while spectators paid more attention to speeding cars than the boys on stage. Yet Barry Gibb refused to quit. As the eldest brother, he constantly pushed Robin and Maurice to keep believing. While Barry thrived on determination, Robin struggled. He found it difficult to fit into Australian life, becoming increasingly withdrawn and emotional. Few realized that the sensitivity fans would later admire in his voice was rooted in loneliness and pain. By the time the family returned to England in 1967, the brothers had already gained valuable experience as performers and songwriters. But nothing prepared them for what happened next. Britain was searching for the next great musical phenomenon, and the Bee Gees arrived at exactly the right moment. Hits like Massachusetts and I Started a Joke turned them into stars almost overnight. Robin's haunting voice captivated millions, placing him firmly at the center of the group's success. But as fame grew, so did the pressures that would eventually threaten to tear everything apart. By 1977, the Bee Gees had reinvented themselves completely. Their signature harmonies remained, but now they were paired with irresistible rhythms that transformed popular music forever. Then came Saturday Night Fever. The soundtrack became a global phenomenon, selling more than 40 million copies and turning the brothers into international superstars. At the center of it all was Barry Gibb. In an achievement few songwriters have ever matched, he wrote 4 consecutive #1 hits, dominating the Billboard charts for 15 straight weeks. To the public, it seemed like the Bee Gees could do no wrong. But behind the success, a very different story was unfolding. Fame was magnifying old rivalries instead of healing them. Robin wanted a greater voice in the group's future, while Barry believed leadership naturally belonged to him as the eldest brother. Maurice found himself trapped between two increasingly stubborn siblings. What fans didn't see was that the battle was no longer just about music. It had become a fight for control, recognition, and ultimately, the soul of the Bee Gees themselves. What should have been the Bee Gees' greatest artistic triumph became the beginning of a family war. Odessa was designed as an ambitious masterpiece, a bold statement that the group was capable of far more than simple pop hits. But as the album neared completion, one decision changed everything. The battle centered on a single question: which song would lead the album? Barry fought for 1st of May. Robin passionately backed Lamplight. Neither brother was willing to compromise. When manager Robert Stigwood ultimately chose Barry's song, Robin felt more than disappointed, he felt betrayed. To Robin, the decision sent a clear message. His opinions no longer mattered. The voice that had helped build the Bee Gees was suddenly being pushed aside. His frustration quickly turned into resentment. He stopped attending recording sessions, ignored Barry's calls, and quietly began planning his exit. Then came the shocking announcement. In 1969, Robin publicly left the Bee Gees. Fans were stunned. But behind the scenes, years of rivalry, hurt feelings, and power struggles had finally exploded into open warfare. The breakup quickly turned into a public war. Hurt and furious, Barry openly criticized Robin, while Robin fired back with a vow that shocked fans. he would never return to the Bee Gees. Newspapers seized on every accusation, turning a private family conflict into front-page entertainment. At first, Robin seemed poised to prove he could succeed alone. His debut single, Saved by the Bell, became a major hit in Britain and showcased the haunting voice that had helped make the Bee Gees famous. But the momentum didn't last. His solo album struggled, and audiences seemed to miss the chemistry that only the three brothers could create together. Meanwhile, Barry and Maurice attempted to carry on without him, but something was missing. The music was still good, yet it lacked the spark that had once captivated millions. Months passed in silence until an unexpected reunion changed everything. When the brothers finally sat down together again, old tensions briefly faded. Within hours, they had written two remarkable songs, including How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, a title that seemed to reflect their own fractured relationship more than anyone realized. Just when it seemed the Bee Gees had conquered the world, everything began to unravel. Saturday Night Fever transformed them into global icons, with their music dominating radio stations, dance floors, and record charts across the world. But success came with a hidden cost. As disco fever reached its peak, a powerful backlash started building. Fans who once embraced the genre suddenly turned against it, and the Bee Gees became the most visible target. Then came a shocking event that changed everything. On the 12th of July, 1979, thousands gathered at Chicago's Comiskey Park for what was supposed to be a harmless promotion called Disco Demolition Night. Instead, it erupted into chaos. Records were blown apart, fires were lit, and thousands of fans stormed the field in a scene that looked more like a riot than a baseball game. For Barry and his brothers, the message was impossible to ignore. The world that had celebrated them was now rejecting them. Almost overnight, the Bee Gees stepped away from the spotlight, retreating from public life while carrying wounds that would take years to heal. When the Bee Gees attempted a comeback in the late 1990s, they expected to celebrate their legacy. Instead, they found themselves facing another humiliation. During a 1997 appearance on a British talk show, host Clive Anderson spent much of the interview ridiculing their falsetto voices, their image, and even their decades of success. At first, the brothers tried to laugh it off, but there was only so much disrespect they were willing to tolerate. Then, in a moment that stunned viewers, Barry quietly removed his microphone and stood up. Robin and Maurice followed without hesitation. Together, they walked off the set, leaving the host speechless and creating one of the most unforgettable moments in television history. Yet the public embarrassment was only part of the story. Behind closed doors, the Bee Gees were battling personal demons. Robin's fiery temper often created turmoil, while Maurice's struggle with alcohol threatened both his health and the future of the band. Fame had made them legends, but it had also left scars that never fully healed. For years, the Bee Gees endured setbacks that would have destroyed most bands. But nothing wounded them more deeply than the loss of their youngest brother, Andy Gibb. Handsome, charismatic, and blessed with a remarkable voice, Andy seemed destined for a lifetime of success. Instead, addiction slowly pulled him into a downward spiral he could not escape. In 1988, he died at just 30 years old, leaving his family devastated. The tragedy brought the brothers closer for a time, but old resentments never truly disappeared. Then came another crushing blow. In 2003, Maurice Gibb, the peacemaker of the family, died unexpectedly. He had spent decades calming arguments and preventing Barry and Robin from turning disagreements into wars. Without him, the fragile balance collapsed. As the years passed, unresolved tensions resurfaced. Robin never fully forgot that he had once been the voice at the center of the Bee Gees. But when the disco era arrived, Barry's falsetto became the band's defining sound. What made perfect musical sense to audiences felt very different to Robin, and the hurt lingered far longer than anyone realized. By the years following Maurice Gibb's death, the relationship between Barry and Robin had become something neither brother could fully explain. It wasn't a loud feud filled with public arguments. It was something colder. They recorded music together, attended the same meetings, and fulfilled their obligations, yet the connection that once defined them seemed to be disappearing. Maurice had spent decades keeping the peace, quietly absorbing conflicts before they could spiral out of control. Without him, every disagreement carried extra weight. Old grievances resurfaced, and wounds that had never truly healed suddenly felt fresh again. Barry later admitted that ambition played a major role in their struggles. Each brother wanted recognition as an individual, not just as part of a legendary group. The same drive that fueled their success also pushed them apart. As communication broke down, the distance became impossible to ignore. They often spoke through managers instead of directly to one another. To fans, it looked like something had suddenly gone wrong. In reality, the tension had existed for years. Maurice had simply been the one person capable of keeping it hidden. As the years passed, the rivalry that had defined so much of Robin Gibb's life began to matter less than a far more serious battle. In the late 2000s, his health started to fail. What first appeared to be a treatable illness soon revealed itself as a devastating fight against cancer that had already spread beyond control. For a brief moment, there was hope. Treatment seemed to help, and Robin continued to face the public with remarkable courage. But in 2012, everything changed. Complications following emergency surgery left him critically ill, and he slipped into a coma while his family waited helplessly by his bedside. Then came one final, unforgettable moment. Frail and visibly weakened, Robin appeared before an audience that greeted him with a thunderous standing ovation. For a man who had spent much of his life searching for recognition, the applause meant everything. Weeks later, Robin was gone. At his funeral, Barry stood before mourners and delivered a heartbreaking farewell, finally admitting what years of conflict had hidden. Despite all the arguments, he had never stopped loving his brother. At Robin Gibb's funeral, Barry finally spoke with an honesty that years of success had never required. He admitted that even in Robin's final years, the conflicts between them had never fully disappeared. The arguments, the misunderstandings, and the long-held grudges were real. Yet standing beside his brother's coffin, those battles suddenly seemed meaningless. Barry confessed that Robin should have had decades more to share his talent with the world. The regret in his voice was impossible to miss. When I started a joke played during the service, its haunting lyrics felt almost prophetic, capturing the loneliness and vulnerability that had defined so much of Robin's life. As the ceremony ended, Barry walked away carrying an unbearable weight. The feud was over at last, but peace had arrived too late. The brother he had spent a lifetime arguing with was gone forever.